Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Aspire Systems. To begin with, I would like to give a short introduction about Aspire Systems and what we stand for. Aspire Systems is a global technology services firm serving as a trusted technology partner for our customers. We work with some of the world's most innovative enterprises and independent software vendors, helping them leverage technology and outsourcing in our specific area of expertise. Our core philosophy of attention always communicates our belief in lavishing care and attention on our customers and employees. Coming to the webinar topic of today, our webinar is on how to drive a successful ServiceNow implementation. It is aimed to bring awareness to the professionals who are contemplating to move towards a state-of-art IT services, operations and management. There are several caveats that one should be aware about in order to realize the full potential of a powerful platform like ServiceNow. Keeping in mind the simple mantras that will be discussed subsequently can go a long way to ensure a highly effective and fruitful ServiceNow experience. Today, we have among ourselves Mr. Ravi Rajamani. Ravi is a senior ServiceNow consultant with Aspire Systems. He has about more than 10 years of industry expertise. He is heading the ServiceNow initiative as Aspire, and he has worked with multiple global enterprises to implement ServiceNow. He is actively interested in the research on IT services operations and management and has implemented several exciting new features for our customers. Also among the speaking panel, we have Mr. Nitin Jacob. Nitin is a senior manager for Client Service Delivery Division within Ingram Micro. Nitin brings with him a rich perspective on the implementation of ServiceNow at a global stage and scale. Just to give an idea of scale, Ingram Micro serves customers in about 170 countries and has about 200,000 customers with around 21,000 employees. To implement ServiceNow, he was the single point of contact across the organization. He was instrumental in defining the process, converting them as a requirement, and worked closely with Aspire for the global rollout of ServiceNow. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Ravi to share his perspectives on ServiceNow and how to drive a successful ServiceNow implementation. Next, you'll be hearing Mr. Ravi.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ravi Rajamani. Thanks for joining the webinar. Let me set this agenda. We will start with the IT service management, how it enables your IT organization and what are the constraints in implementing an ITSM process. Then we will move on to ServiceNow, an introduction about ServiceNow and what ServiceNow brings to the table. Then we move on to the main agenda of this webinar, how to effectively drive a ServiceNow implementation. So in that, we will cover the prerequisites you should have before implementing ServiceNow. You should have what are the roadmaps, how to come up with a roadmap which is effective and yet simple. And then we will have general discussion about what are the pitfalls you should avoid while doing ServiceNow implementation. We will summarize it and we will have Nitin Jacob talking about his experience in implementing ServiceNow in Ingram Micro and share his experience and what are the instances he came across that should give you a better idea about how a real-time implementation will look like. Then the floor is open for your questions and we will answer those questions for you. Let's move on to the ITSM, its enabler and the constraint. So ITSM is quite a buzzword for quite a long time now. So we have witnessed many organizations adopting to ITSM and how they have enabled ITSM processes deliver more value to the business. So while we're talking about it, what ITSM really brings to an organization is it standardizes the process across the organization. So this is something very important because we cannot have processes of different kinds in different regions within an organization. So how do we standardize this? ITSM is an answer for it. And bring the global level commitment. So if you put a process in place, you can always expect a commitment globally. which is going to drive more value into the business. So the next enabler will be how IT operation matrices can be tracked. So we are performing well, and how do we track and measure those matrices so that we can have something to work on the continual service improvement. So these are the things which are the enablers, and not but the least, the productivity is something which is going to be a major thing when you have an ITSM process in your organization. In case if you're not having an ITSM process enabled, it is always advisable to go with an ITSM process. It doesn't mean that you need to have all the processes in place. You can always choose what you should have and then proceed forward with that. Having said that, there are always few bottlenecks in getting an ITSM process implemented in an enterprise. So you will, if you are a part of the team where you were asked to go with an ITSM process implementation, you will be always given too many processes to implement, and you will have too little time to do it. So you will be in a hurry. So don't hurry. Okay. So these are all the bottlenecks which you should understand and have a good understanding about what ITSM is all about in general. And if you put a new process in place, especially the people who are going to interact directly with the customers and the IT professionals, IT service desk people will always have hesitation in adopting to the process because they have not got used to those kind of processes before. They got used to different level of providing services. Now you put those ITSM processes in place, it might be a hindrance, or they might hesitate to adopt to these processes. And again, ITSM is not just a one-time implementation. You should be continuously monitoring what is the outcome of the processes, and then make sure that you get the feedback clear and improve it continuously. So to have these kind of bottlenecks, the solution is to have an ITSM automation. So, and ServiceNow is the leader in providing such an ITSM automation in any scale. Take it for example in an enterprise or in a mid-level company. So ServiceNow plays a very important role. So in the left-hand side of your slide, you can see how we have compared the traditional IT with an ITSM. So it is completely different. So it has changed the phase of how we provide an IT service to our customers. Let's start with the introduction to ServiceNow now. So you might have heard about what ServiceNow is and what they are doing now, but in general, ServiceNow is an enterprise cloud company. It provides platform as a service for enterprise service management, and it is one of the most flexible and a scalable solution which you can adopt. And then comes the mantra of ServiceNow, everything as a service. In Knowledge 15, just Freddie, CEO of ServiceNow, explained about the journey ServiceNow took to reach here. So he stated the goal of the company is to have a platform where any user can create an application and go to the market with a service. So that is the objective of the company. So now you can imagine why ServiceNow is so flexible enough to adopt to all these changes, and how it has moved from ITSM to different areas inside a company. So take it for example, now we have HR management module, facility management module. So now likewise, we can also create many custom applications and fit that into different departments within an organization. That is what we call it as enterprise service management. The below diagram gives you a pictorial representation of different maturity levels of tools which are available. Okay, I didn't name any tools yet, but are the features which I have given. To start with, help desk tools. It will have some basic ITSM or core ITSM processes in place, like incident, problem, a lean asset management, okay, where you might be uploading those data manually into the system, and few reporting options where you can track those matrices. So now that evolved to a service desk depending upon the industrial need. So where we are not delivering only service, we deliver value to our customers. Now then came the other processes in place, like change, employee self-service portal, which becomes an primary system of engagement for the customers to interact with IT services. request management, SLA, knowledge management, and configuration management. Then now the next level goes to the IT SSM, which is IT service and support management. It is a very well matured model now, which is adopted by many of the tools currently available in the market. Now they have brought in social IT, which is how we can, it is again how close we can bring the customers to an IT service. Okay, we don't need to be so formal in asking them to fill in a template and send it to us. So social IT brings in the communication a little bit closer. Okay, so they can be informal and they can just chat like what we do in Facebook. So this is a great success now, and we are witnessing these successes with many customers. And mobility, so which is unavoidable now, everything goes mobile. Analytics, so apart from reporting, now we have moved to analytics. Okay, we need more information or more realistic figures about what exactly happening within the system. So now reporting now become an analytics. In addition to that, an IT SSM tool will have IT finance management, demand management, and governance. So apart from IT service management, there are many companies focusing on governance as their major area, because you have ITSM process in place, there should be something to govern. So the tool has also evolved in having those processes in place. Now if we take ServiceNow and if you want to put it there, you need to put it above ITSM because it is not only IT, it is for entire enterprise service. So it is clearly a leader in this area, and I'm sure we also have experience in using ServiceNow in different departments and how flexible it is to adopt to all those processes, workflows, and everything else. So let's move on to the next one, which is the main agenda of this webinar: how to ensure an effective ServiceNow implementation. Let's talk about the prerequisites you should have before you go for a ServiceNow implementation. So we have 4 prerequisites here. One is getting the stakeholders on board, having a roadmap, a well-defined process, and matrices and KPIs which you are planning to collect from the system. So why we call these or prerequisites, or these things plays a major role in understanding what you're trying to implement and what you're trying to achieve. Okay. Let's take global stakeholders on board. Okay, everything starts with people. So people plays an important role in implementing any new system, not only ServiceNow, it also starts with any new system. So how do we get those people on board? How do we make them accept things, or how do we convince them? With our experience, we would say we started prototyping. Okay. Prototype is nothing but creating a proof of concept, like how ServiceNow will be helpful in delivering a better service. You can start with few application modules, show them how these modules can help deliver a better service. Always choose IT and non-IT in different areas so that you can spread ServiceNow into different levels inside an organization. So start with the prototyping, it's a good idea. Provide them create a platform so that you can communicate with different stakeholders, get their feedbacks, and ask them questions like, what do you expect out of a new system in place? Take it for example, ServiceNow. Make them aware what is ServiceNow is capable of, and you will be wondered, like people will come up with all the requirements. Okay, these things will help you to understand how you can better and efficiently implement ServiceNow in your organization. The second thing comes roadmap. Roadmap is again a plan, a high-level plan, what you're going to implement and when you're going to implement. If you say everyone has it, what is a big deal? If you sound something similar to this, then you might be wrong. It is not just a timeline against the future you're going to implement. It is all about the value you're going to add at the right time. So how we are going to do it, we will discuss in detail in the next slide, where we are going to talk about how to create a roadmap which is realistic and yet effective for ServiceNow implementation. The third comes a well-defined process. Okay, there is no replacement for this, I would say. So you should have a tailor-made process which delivers your business goals. So there are industries best practices in place, but it is always flexible for you to tweak it, bend it in such a way that it delivers your business goals. We don't need to adopt anything which is available out there. So you can tweak it, you can understand the process, make sure it delivers your business goals, and make sure the processes have less dependencies. Okay, don't have too many checkpoints in a process. Have it very simple, okay, so that it flows through different stages and it provides more clarity to the customer and the technician who are working. So that is how a process should be with our experience. The fourth thing comes the matrices, KPIs, what you are going to measure. So start with three basic questions. What I'm going to measure, why I should be measuring it, and how I'm going to do it. So what I'm going to measuring it is something which is a basic stuff, like if I'm going to provide a service, what are the things which I'm going to measure? Okay. Then ask yourself a question, why I'm going to measure it. So we have one of our customers, so during your implementation phase, they want to start with the reporting phase first. Okay. It was a surprise for us, but it ended up in giving us good results actually. So we started how it is going to end, what we are going to measure, what are the reports we are going to get. This helped us to define a process and then implement it in ServiceNow, which is a good success for us as well. And then another example, a balanced scorecard. Take it for example, if you're trying to collect a metrics for a global service desk. So a balanced scorecard eventually should have three important criteria: the productivity of the global service desk people, the quality which was delivered through global service desk, and the cost involved in delivering these services to the customer. So how do we attain these three things within one balanced scorecard? So now you need to plan it. Okay, that is how it should start. Okay, you should have answers to what, why, and how I'm going to measure it. These are the basic prerequisites you should have to have a successful ServiceNow implementation. We will now move on to how to define or how to have a realistic and yet an effective roadmap. If you have any questions, just please do post it there. You have an option to post it there. So please do post it and I will be happy to answer those. So roadmap. Roadmap is a guide which helps you to visualize, track and foresee the implementation. Okay, this is the basic objective of why we are coming up with a roadmap in first place. So what do you visualize? Okay, you got people, you got stakeholders from different parts of your organization, because ServiceNow is not only IT specific, it's going to be an enterprise-wide, so your global stakeholders will be from different departments and different mindsets. So how do you visualize their requirements? Put it in that roadmap. Okay, after going through one by one process, like usually ServiceNow will be implemented in phases. So what comes first and what comes first in phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. Put that in. Okay, you don't need to be a final one, just put that in, visualize it and foresee what is going to come up next. Okay, to have a roadmap, so there are few things which you should understand. So first thing is we need to understand what is the current system is, what is the current process we have. Okay, understand the process and accept if there are failures. Okay, that is the best way where you can make those failures as a success when you're going for ServiceNow implementation. Because some of the failures might be due to the tool which is not capable of doing those kind of processes or things which you expect that tool to perform. So accept those as failures or incapability of a tool and then make sure that you bring that to ServiceNow. Map your requirements. Now you've got requirements from many stakeholders. So how do we map it? Bubble chart is the best way. With my experience, I would say bubble chart is the best way to map an experience. What is this bubble chart? Bubble chart will, again, it should be mapped with 2-3 different entries. Like map it with the requirements you have got from different people. Okay, different stakeholders, and what is your plan is against the value it is going to deliver. Okay, so if you map those things and the effort needed, because effort is something which you need to calculate. So map the requirements or the features map it against the value it is going to deliver and the efforts it's going to take to implement. This should give you a clear picture about how do you prioritize. Okay, we don't need to prioritize based upon opinions from people. Now this is going to give you a clear representation of how we are going to do it and how we have prioritized these features and how we are going to implement it. The next thing comes like spread and go deep, especially with ServiceNow. Don't restrict ServiceNow implementation only to IT. We might have difference of opinions here, but we have visually seen many in ServiceNow implementation where when we spread and then go deep, it actually returned a better feedback, and return of investment is also good because ServiceNow will be spread across nook and corner of your organization. Apart from IT, your HR will be using it, your finance people will be using it. So we will have feedbacks and comments from different departments within your organization. We don't need to have a perfect process in place at the first time. Okay, so don't fine tune too much in the earlier phases of implementation. Go ahead and implement which you think or which you have already discussed and finalized, and then automatically it will evolve. So you need to have a roadmap, a time in the roadmap where you're going to fine tune these processes. Okay, so this will help you to have a better process towards the end. Maybe after third phase or the fourth phase, you will have new features installed or implemented in ServiceNow. Parallelly, the process which we have already implemented in phase 1 and phase 2 will be fine-tuned. So always have a courage to say no, because this is something as a lead or as an implementation specialist or who take care of the implementation for ServiceNow within an organization should have too many options or just a tool has it, let me implement it. Don't do it. Okay, whatever which delivers the value, please to prioritize it, convince them, and then go ahead and do it. Logically, take it for example, we might be interested in data center automation because it returns a huge value. Okay, you can cut short about 30 or 40% of repetitive tasks within a data center, but you cannot go for a data center automation before having a good configuration management, a CMDB. So how do we prioritize it? You can say always no. You can say no that it is not going to be in phase 1. When we should have a different level of CMDB, a full-fledged CMDB before we can even think about having a data center automation in place. So another important thing is make it very simple. So whether your process or your workflow or what you're going to implement, make it simple, but don't be simpler. Okay. Which means that don't underestimate a complex process. There are always complex things which might exist in your enterprise service. So don't underestimate a complex process. If you have a complex process, ServiceNow is an answer for you. Okay. The complexity should not be visible to the end customer. From the end customer point of view, make it as simple as possible. Okay, so simpler processes, again, you can have a good self-service portal. Okay, categorize these things, show them what are the services available. They will automatically fill in the form, or they will post those information into it. But what runs behind is something which we don't need to put that complexity into the customer. So put that complexity into the system and have a very lean and simple system for the view of the customer. That is one of the key things which you can work on for a successful roadmap and implementation of ServiceNow. And another, last but not the least, when you come up with roadmap, set the expectation correct. Okay, so while you're prototyping or while you're working on ServiceNow, don't overcommit. It can be done, or these are the features which we can expect in future months. So just commit what you have right now, because we don't know what is going to happen. So just plan it accordingly. Don't overcommit. Let's see how it works. Okay, and then slowly evolve with the process. ServiceNow is huge now. Okay, so we have 2 major releases in a year, and every release have many new features coming up. And there is always a customization option where you can create your own application and integrate with different systems within your enterprise. So it is always wide open. So we don't need to overcome it. We will evaluate each of the requirement and then proceed forward step by step after prioritizing it. We will now move to the next slide, okay, how to avoid pitfalls. So to have a successful implementation with our experience, we have come across few pitfalls. We like to share our experience on this and just to understand what are the things which you should be avoiding while doing a ServiceNow implementation. One of the major thing as a pitfall, I would say, is over-reliance on out-of-box features within ServiceNow. Not only ServiceNow, you can put that in any other tool. Okay, so out-of-box features are there. Okay, it will make you go to the market very easily. Okay, it is always there. You can just configure a few things here and there, and incident management, problem management, and change management is ready to go. But just think about it. Okay, if you have this prerequisites ready, one of the prerequisites is a well-defined process. You don't need to change those processes just because you have something out of box. Okay, so don't rely on these out of box features. There is nothing called out of box, I would say. Okay, so have your process in, and ServiceNow is such a flexible tool. It can adapt to your process. Okay, you can customize it in such a way that you will be able to make your process, put that into ServiceNow, and then proceed forward. We will have 10 to 15 seconds for a vote. Okay, so please do vote. And the question is, why do you choose ServiceNow for enterprise service management? So you can choose from, it greatly reduces the go-to-market time. Services can now be deployed rapidly. If that is your answer, please choose that. Or if you think it is a scalable platform which adopt to faster growing organizations like us, okay, or if you think it is widely implemented solution and it is growing rapidly, please do it, and we will wait for 10 seconds for you to vote. I'm seeing some responses and waiting for some more votes before we begin. Thank you for your responses, and it's good to see that 68% of the audience, the participants here, have voted that it is a scalable solution, and it will be fast adapting to a growing organization like us. And that is the key advantage of having ServiceNow as an enterprise service management tool within an organization. So it evolves so fast and it brings up meaningful solution to the market, and that too in twice a year. That is something which should be noted. Thank you very much. And in with pitfalls. Oh, and okay, while we are discussing about pitfalls and the next thing is about the bad process, okay? This is something which you should note. I have been insisting about a well-defined process from the beginning of this webinar. So ServiceNow is not a substitute for a bad process. It cannot change a bad process, okay? So have a process, do your homework, okay? And that is when you can get more out of ServiceNow. So lack of ServiceNow capability awareness is something, another major pitfall, because it might sound odd that how come it is, but you should be having enough awareness about a system you're going to implement, and if you don't have those kind of awareness, you might end up with some basic things and you will not get the full fruit out of ServiceNow implementation. So read through, the best thing will be to read through some of the case studies, success stories, and how it is done in different customer places. So that should give you a fair idea about how ServiceNow was adopted. And knowledge sessions and knowledge 15, knowledge 16, which is going to come next year, they share a lot of ideas how it has, how ServiceNow have transformed their business services. So these things should give you a clear idea about ServiceNow capabilities. So we have discussed about how you can implement ServiceNow efficiently within your organization, and we have discussed about some of the prerequisites. Let me summarize it for you, and then we will have a discussion with Nitin Jacob to share his experience, how ServiceNow was implemented within a huge organization like Ingram Micro. To summarize it, to have an efficient ServiceNow implementation, have an organizational wide vision. Okay, always understand that ServiceNow is more than ITSM, so your vision should be more than IT. Okay, so have it an organization wide vision, have a good roadmap in place, following some of the best practices which we have discussed. Have quick wins. Okay, you don't need to set only a final goal. You can set short-term milestones where you can enjoy quick wins. This will be encouraging for you. At the same time, these quick wins are also going to deliver a business value into the system. Have a business-focused process. These processes, the processes what you're going to define, a well-defined processes are always business-focused. People is where it starts and where it goes. So people awareness and their acceptance is very important for a ServiceNow implementation to be successful. And always have your doors open for continual improvement process. So this is where you are going to fine-tune and evolve a ServiceNow implementation and get that to a different maturity level and have a high return of investment. If you have any questions with this, please do post it, and I will be waiting here to answer those.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ravi. I think it was really enlightening to hear some of your opinion on how to drive a successful ServiceNow implementation. And now is the time for us to welcome Mr. Nitin Jacob. Basically, Nitin will take us through the case study of ServiceNow implementation with a Fortune 100 firm like Ingram Micro, and he will tell us about his perspectives on what he found with the implementation of Ingram Micro in such a huge scale. So next voice you will be hearing from Nitin. Nitin?
Thank you, Shashwat. Hello everyone, can you hear me, Shashwat?
Yes, the voice is clear. So our audience is waiting for you to take us through the ServiceNow implementation in a huge company like Ingram Micro.
All right. Hello everyone, I'm Nitin Jacob, and I'm currently responsible for ServiceNow and service desk operations in Ingram Micro. I've been with Ingram Micro for the past 8 years. Ingram Micro, as mentioned earlier, is the world's largest distributor of technology products, and we have more than 21,000 regular employees and around 5,000 temporary workers spread across the globe. So looking at the size of the company, I'm sure you would agree that we needed to ensure that we had a very good and effective IT service management structure in place. Prior to ServiceNow, Ingram Micro was using a ticketing tool that required our service desk to manually create and update tickets on behalf of our users. That aside, the self-service functionality wasn't very user-friendly because of which we had a lot of challenges in getting the users and even to some extent the support teams to actually use the system for creating updating the tickets. And apart from that, we did not really have the concept of incidents and requests in true ITIL terms. So everything was being handled as tasks. Even though we had a change management structure in place, it was again pretty challenging to convince the teams to adopt it, as there were no automated workflows, because of which the teams had to manually create the subsequent tasks like the test tasks, deployment tasks, development tasks, and so on. And of course, the reporting was pretty cumbersome. It was indeed very cumbersome. For instance, if one of our VPs or directors wanted to see a quick report on how well their teams are performing, the support teams, they had to get in touch with the service desk, who would then get in touch with our vendors to pull the reports from the database. So as you can see, basically the overall experience wasn't very pleasant for everyone who were involved, be it our service desk, our end users, our support teams, or the management. And that's when we partnered with Aspire to evaluate various alternative tools and finally shortlisted ServiceNow, and then later on effectively rolled out ServiceNow in our organization. And right now, when I look back, I think I can confidently say that we made the right decision and also took the correct approach, as it has managed to address each of the concerns that I mentioned earlier. And I would like to quote some of the positives that we saw as an organization. For instance, the user interface that ServiceNow provided was much more intuitive, because of which we did not have to spend a lot of time training our end users and the support teams. Moreover, ServiceNow, as all of you would be aware, is available over the internet, which means users don't necessarily have to be in the office network or using the office laptops to access the systems. They could be traveling on their phones, on tablets to access the systems, to approve tickets. It's very user-friendly. So for us as an organization, it wasn't really tough to convince the users to adopt the new system. We were also able to leverage service catalogs to automate the ticket creation and approval process. So what we did was we pulled out a dump of all the tickets created in the last 12 months and partnered with Aspire to analyze and see what are the most commonly occurring requests that we were getting. And based on the analysis, we created the service catalogs and published it for the end users. So the end users, they did not have to contact the service desk for requesting these common items. Instead, they could now log into the system, submit a catalog form which would automatically route the ticket to the respective teams, and even request approvals automatically. So this saved a lot of time for both the end users and even the service desk, as they did not have to handle these really monotonous tasks where they would act as mere postmasters, just assign tickets without really adding any value, because that's all they do. It was out of their scope. So it wasn't a RAL1 or a resolution at level 1 opportunity, and they would just be assigning tickets. So with service catalogs, we were able to get more out of the teams. And apart from that, we were able to improve our response time and SLAs. Earlier, for instance, when someone wanted to create a ticket via email, the email that they sent used to be captured in the mailbox, and the service desk had to monitor the mailbox and manually create the ticket. But with the implementation of ServiceNow, users were able to create tickets themselves automatically via email. What this also did was that it was able to effectively reduce the response and resolution times. For instance, to quote an example, earlier when someone used to send an email to log a ticket, it took our service desk on an average 2 hours to pick up the email from the mailbox and to manually create the ticket and then assign it to a respective team. But after the implementation with ServiceNow in place, they were able to handle the whole, ticket creation, assignment, all those things in just 10 minutes. So that should give an idea about the kind of efficiency we were able to gain. And I think one of the most significant outcomes from the implementation was an improved customer satisfaction levels. So we now had end users who were more than happy to log into the system and create tickets. We had support teams who were regularly updating the tickets. We had the VPs and management who were able to pull out reports themselves real time. So on the whole, everyone was pretty happy, and they were pretty happy with what they were seeing post the implementation. Shafut.
Thank you so much for your perspectives, Nitin, and thank you so much for saying how effective it has been for a big organization like Ingram Micro. And as I get interested about this implementation, I have a few questions that are there, and would you like to give our audience some perspective on it? So, first thing that I would want to ask you is about the scale itself. What was the scale of this implementation, and since it was a global rollout, how much time was consumed, and how many countries was the rollout in, and what things were covered in this? Can you give us an idea about that? I think it will be helpful for our listeners.
Sure. So the scale of implementation, I would say, was pretty big. Considering we are a global company, we had a global rollout done at one go. Our support teams, we had around 1,500 ITIL support users as such. So, and they were spread across 30 countries. So when we went live with all those 30 countries, plus there were other countries where there were end users. And what can be considered pretty impressive would be the time in which we completed the implementation, because we were able to complete the end-to-end deployment with all the modules, which is the incident request, the change management, release and problem management module, along with the catalogs and self-service. We were able to do that end-to-end implementation in just 60 days and with 2 resources, which I think is pretty good, considering the number of resources that we had. And this included all the trainings that we did, the creation of around 60-odd service catalog forms, the AD integration, the VPN connectivity for our LDAP servers with ServiceNow, and so on. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's interesting that what can be achieved with ServiceNow in such a short span of time, and along with the kind of resources it took, it's astounding, and it's really impressive. About something that most people are interested in is about how ServiceNow or how such IT services operations and management reduces the manual work. So once you did roll out the implementation of ServiceNow, how much do you think the manual work was reduced, and how it was reduced? Can you put some light onto that?
Yeah. So one of the items that most organizations have to deal with these days are the aging tickets, right? So previously we had the service desk manually follow up on the tickets. During the go live, we were able to use schedule jobs to automate the follow-up, and thereby allowing the service desk team to save considerable time on follow-up. So that is one area which we were able to address. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, service catalogs helped us a great deal. It automated a lot of monotonous tasks that the service desk was doing. So these are the 2 items that we did to to reduce the manual work via automation.
Thank you, Nitin. I have a couple of more questions. I hope you don't mind them answering. One of the more important questions is once the organization of your size looks to come up with a new system, it has to think about integrating the earlier legacy and existing systems with it. So can you tell me the approach? How did you integrate ServiceNow with the existing systems? Like any inputs on that?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question and a very good one, because one of the features that I really like so much about ServiceNow is its ability to closely integrate with various tools. So we have managed to integrate ServiceNow with many of our monitoring tools, for example, like SCORM, BPPM, and there are many in-house applications, considering the business that we are in, warehouse, inventory. So we have many in-house applications, and we have managed to integrate ServiceNow with almost all our applications. And I would like to actually highlight the work we did for the BPPM integration. So BPPM is a tool that is used by our monitoring team to monitor the servers and systems. And so the market does provide a connector which allows us to integrate ServiceNow with BPPM. But thanks to you guys, I remember Aspire came up with a pretty cost-effective solution using SOAP and web services, which we deployed using very little investment from our side, and it has been working like a charm. So I think one of the highlights of this tool would be its ability to integrate using web services. So we've got mid servers, so very much scalable, very easy to integrate, I would say, ServiceNow.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Nitin, for Aspire, and I hope we continuously challenge the barriers of ServiceNow implementation and bring more good. So, talking about the future, since we have seen it has been effective, talking about the future, what are the key ServiceNow modules do you think will play a good role in future of this implementation with Ingram Micro? Can you say something about that?
Yeah, so I was listening to Ravi's presentation, and Ravi was again very closely involved when we went live, in our company. And one of the good calls that we made, and what Ravi mentioned was we decided not to go live with all the modules, right? So we, for instance, currently we use incident, request, change, release, and problem modules, and of course social IT. So we did not go live with everything at one shot. I remember when we went live with incident, request, change, and problem, right? And then we slowly included social IT. Then we started asset management, CMDB. So it's been a slow but steady progress for Ingram Micro. And as far as what the future holds for us, we're actually looking forward to partner with Aspire and use expertise in going live with ServiceNow orchestration, the password reset module, sometime later this year. And from a cost perspective, I think it would really help us if we were to automate the password reset and user administration process using orchestration. So that's the plan for this year. And apart from that, we are also reviewing the project portfolio and IT GRC modules. Those are two modules that are pretty interesting for us and also for the business. So yeah, these to summarize, I would say orchestration, the password reset module, project portfolio, and IT GRC are the modules that we are looking forward to in the coming months.
Well, thank you so much, Nitin. It was really helpful to understand what it means to implement ServiceNow at such a big scale. And we have our audiences, and they have asked some really pertinent questions. So I will ask you and Ravi to take these questions. So I will be asking questions one after the another, which is posed by our audiences. So the first question that was asked is, what is the ease of implementation in ServiceNow as compared to the other similar tools? Ravi, would you want to answer that?
Yes. ServiceNow, as we discussed, it is one of the most flexible and scalable tool. So the ease of implementing ServiceNow is the customization is something which is pretty easy. Okay. The toughest area is what we are going to implement. That is the toughest question. Once we have decided what we are going to implement, and the rest things follows just like that. Okay, the customization is very easy when compared with the other tools which I have worked. So you can have resources trained in ServiceNow administration and development. Placing them in this implementation is also very easy. The skill set required for ServiceNow customization will be starting with JavaScript, basic idea about web services. These things will enable a staff member or an IT technician to take part in ServiceNow implementation and put his hands as well in getting those implementation as quick as possible.
So Ravi, essentially, does that mean when you see a competing tool, something like a BMC Remedy or a HP OpenView, what do you think? It takes less time or more time, or is it more complex to implement this?
It is very easy to implement. The complexity is something which is addressed by ServiceNow when they have released. That is one of the goal of ServiceNow, I would say. So the complexity is something which is taken apart from implementing an ITSM tool.
So yes, we really vouch that it is easier to implement ServiceNow compared to the other similar tools in the market. Coming to the next question, what we have is, now ServiceNow out of the box, as it is, how much customization is required? What kind of customization we are looking at once I take ServiceNow out of the box and want to implement it? Or does it require lots of implementation and lots of rework? Or is it like out of the box we can really use certain features out of the box also? What is the level of customization that is required?
So we discussed this point in while we are discussing about pitfalls when ServiceNow implementation might go wrong. So if the question is all about how much customization is required from my side to go live with ServiceNow implementation, it depends upon what you're trying to implement. But nothing is ready-made. Nothing comes out of the box. ServiceNow has incident problem management. Every module is there, and if you set this inbound email actions and other stuff, it is going to have tickets created, and it is going to work. But I'm sure that's not the reason why you have got into ServiceNow. Okay, ServiceNow needs not only ServiceNow, any tool needs customization which fits your tailor-made process into this tool. So the customization is always there, but I don't think it is a pain. So the pain, if you think like that, which means that there are too many complexities in customization, then that is a pain. But the customization by itself in ServiceNow is too easy, so we don't need to take that as a pain.
Okay. Next one is in a way a little tricky. So the thing is, our audience wants to know that anything very specific to ServiceNow challenges, like there are tools, there are challenges with ITSM implementation, but something specific to ServiceNow which is a challenge, you usually face with ServiceNow only. Would you want to say something on that?
Yes, sure. When we talk about specific to ServiceNow implementation, the first thing comes out of my mind is out of box options. Too much dependencies on out of box, because ServiceNow offers many things. Okay, if you open up a demo instance of ServiceNow, I'm sure that you will be convinced that okay, it will work for me. Okay, so that is what it is going to make you stop from improving or getting your process into ServiceNow. Okay, so you might find that okay, whatever we have in the existing system is looking good, or it might be out of the box system is looking good, but whether it suits your business goal is something which you need to evaluate. So do a prototyping, okay, see how it works, and then go forward with that. Okay, this is what I felt, because ServiceNow has too much to offer, so make sure you choose the right one. Okay, don't go with, as Nitin said earlier, don't go with too many options in phase 1 or phase 2. Okay, so choose what is necessary. That is the first point, and the next point is too much dependencies on out of box features within ServiceNow. So these are the common causes for failures.
Thanks, Ravi. So basically we need to analyze how out of the box things are, and how much is it related closely to the processes you are following within your own company. So we need to evaluate that very closely. Next question is basically, Nitin, this one is for you. Nitin, our audience wants to know that, around 30% cost reduction within Ingram Micro, for IT services management and operations. Where exactly does this reduction come from, within ServiceNow? What kind of automation or what kind of things have helped to bring about such cost reduction?
Alright, so Ingram Micro had outsourced their service desk operations to a vendor, and they were actually charging Ingram Micro for each ticket that they used to handle. So let's say a user calls the service desk to log a ticket, so the service desk agent would actually log into the system, create a ticket, and basically charges for it. And with ServiceNow, we were actually able to automate the ticket creation and assignment process. You would remember when I was going through the slides, I mentioned about service catalogs and the integrations that we did with BPPM and all the other monitoring tools. So earlier, all these tickets were manually created by the service desk. But with the deployment of ServiceNow, we were able to automate it, because of which these tickets never had to be touched by the service desk analysts. Instead, they are directly being created, directly assigned, approvals were being automatically requested. So it completely eliminated the need for the service desk analyst to route these tickets for these instances, and that's how we were able to bring about a saving of close to 30%.
So lots of manual work was eliminated, and lots of automation has bring about efficiency as well as cost reduction. So time and money, it saves both. Sounds like a good deal.
That's right.
Yeah. The final question for today is, I think for both Ravi and Nitin, you. Like the thing is, at first I would want to ask you, Nitin, training is one of the most important aspects of adoption of a new technology like ServiceNow. So how did you go about training the staff? What kind of adoption rate was there? And this is the first part of the question. If you can answer that, I'll move on to the second.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, when we went live globally for all the regions. And so we had two kinds of training schedules. People who are familiar with ServiceNow would know that normally there are two roles. You'll have the users with ITIL roles. So those are the people who would actually be working on the ticket. So they'll be opening the ticket, updating the ticket, reassigning the ticket, converting incidents to requests. So we had training for those people. There are around, I remember, 1,500 to 1,600 users with, who were going to be purely supporting using tickets. So we had a set of training schedule for them. And then we had a separate training session scheduled for the end users. And the tool that we used our conferencing system, and we made sure that everyone. So we have a training team as well. So we made sure that the attendance was taken, and we made sure that all 1,500 odd IT support users attended these sessions. And apart from that, there were multiple training sessions scheduled across different regions. I think we had 10 training sessions each for each region, 10 for APAC, 10 for North America, 10 for EMEA, and another 10 for LATAM. So the training was pretty intensive, and that was, we made sure that we did the training after the instance was ready in our development environment, so that we could actually take them through the instance. It's another thing to just take them through the slides and tell them that, okay, when we go live, this is how it's going to be. But if you're actually able to implement it in development or test and then show it to them how it's going to be, I think it's going to be much more productive. So that was a takeaway for me.
Thank you so much, Nitin. This was a very comprehensive plan regarding training. And another thing I just wanted to ask was, ServiceNow is supposed to have very intuitive user interface. Did that result in higher adoption or easier training of staff? What would you say to that?
Yes, very much. So I think where it really helped was end users, because as I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of issues with getting the end users to use the tool. So with the very intuitive user interface that we have, both end users, even the support staff, they were more than happy. I would say they welcomed the tool with open arms. So yeah, it was a joy for all of them to work with the new tool.
That's great to hear. We are heading towards the end, so quickly I would want to answer. I would want one more question. When we talked about when we talked about legacy systems and integration with legacy systems, data migration, was that a problem or was that smooth? Data migration of the older service desk solutions.
I wouldn't say it was smooth, but I think we handled it pretty well. So I remember the earlier tool that we were using. We had around, after the cutoff date, we had around 1,100 open tickets in the system. So obviously, when we do the transition, we want everyone to use this one tool. So what we did was, we did a mapping of the different fields in the previous tool and ServiceNow. We exported it and then imported it to ServiceNow. So ServiceNow allows us to import as XML files. It's pretty easy to do. I think the challenge for us was to get, to export the data from the legacy system. Once we had the data, I'm not going to say it was smooth, because we have to spend some time trying to map the different fields. For example, you might have a field called category item, but not a corresponding field, for that in the previous legacy system. So that was the only hiccup, but migration was pretty simple. You just export it from the legacy system, and import it to ServiceNow. After
So
the mapping is
careful
done.
analysis would lead to easier data migration. Sounds really good, and looks like ServiceNow is the technology which which will be very beneficial in the future as well. I would like to thank you and thank Ravi for enlightening us with your perspectives, the practitioner's approach. I would like to thank our audiences who has come and who has asked several questions and have shown interest and given their time to us. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for making this webinar a success. And for anybody who wants to see the slides, and we have put it in the attachment so it is downloadable, and any information or any questions further that you might have, we have info@aspiresys.com. You can shoot a mail to us there, and it's in the last slide, info@aspiresys.com. Please feel free to write a mail to us, and we will be, our experts will be answering this to your satisfaction. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. We'll be looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.